Statewide, the number of opioid deaths for drugs like OxyContin and heroin has mushroomed. According to the Michigan Department of Community Health, from 1999 to 2013, heroin deaths have increased 12-fold. Here in Livingston County, things are worse than ever. Livingston County law enforcement confirmed at least 28 opioid-related deaths in 2014. Vincent Bennett of Pinckney was one of those deaths.
Bennett enjoyed spending time with his 3-year-old niece. He liked to rap, lift weights, and was the kind of person who had a nickname for all his friends. Bennett was 21 when he died on August 10, 2014. His best friend, Peter Schmina, died on August 9, 2010. They both overdosed on heroin. Peter's father, Andrew, said he realized there was a big problem when he found needles in the trash can. A month later, Peter died.
Going to work Monday morning, 6:30. Alarm's going off. Beep, 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 beep. So I go in and wake him up. And he's not moving, he's like, he's dead.
Almost 4 years to the date of Peter's death, the Schminas were expecting Bennett to join them for a visit to their son's grave. Instead, they received a call from Bennett's mom, who told them that Bennett had died.
Went over to his house when they had medical examiners there, and they'd taken him out and just reliving the whole nightmare. My daughter's like, I can't believe this is happening again.
Often, a heroin addiction begins with the use of prescription drugs, like OxyContin. But heroin is much cheaper. For example, 0.1 grams of heroin is enough to potentially cause a fatal overdose and could be purchased for $10. Amanda Cox was a heroin addict for nearly 6 years. To fit in as a teenager, she started drinking and smoking marijuana. Soon it escalated to pills, and by the age of 14, she was convinced by 2 friends to try heroin. She was hooked. She said she would get high anywhere she could, even sniff heroin off the toilet seat in the girls' bathroom at school. To get her fix, she would do whatever it takes.
I would go as far as returning cans, change, whatever I had to do, ripping off people, selling my medications, which were like Adderall or Suboxone.
She was a friend of Bennett and Peter's girlfriend when he died. They all used heroin together. She told stories about divvying up lines of heroin on the mirror in Peter's room and talked about sketchy trips the three made to Detroit to get heroin. It took 6 years and several relapses, but Cox said she's sober for good. It's been a year since she checked into an inpatient clinic in Saginaw, where she said she stayed for 37 days. The first week she was given 60 milligrams of Suboxone to combat the withdrawals. She's now down to 2 milligrams a day. She said everyone she knows who tries to recover on their own is either dead or has relapsed. She recommends the 12-step program. Cox is in her 3rd step. She said she's been here before, but this time her will is stronger. The fear of losing her 3-year-old daughter lingers in her mind, and she knows a relapse will likely lead to death.
It's a lifelong thing, and I'm just going to continue to work at it every single day, a day at a time.
Lieutenant Ronald Smith is the section commander of a Michigan State Police organization known as Livingston and Washtenaw Narcotics Enforcement Team. The task force continues to seize more and more heroin each year. They seized more than 270 grams of heroin in 2014.
But the problem within Livingston and Washtenaw County really started to come forward probably in early 2000s, mid-2000s.
Around the mid-2000s, there was an incident at the Pinckney Pharmacy, which has since been bought by Rite Aid and relocated. Bob Phipps was the owner of the pharmacy when the incident occurred. Phipps said in 2005 prescription drugs were disappearing from the pharmacy. Eventually, a teenage employee was caught. He admitted to having an accomplice. Phipps said the 2 teenage employees stole hundreds of pills and targeted drugs like OxyContin. Now, court records show that one teen was charged with embezzlement of $1,000 or more, but less than $20,000 for taking, quote, OxyContin, money, or personal property. He was sentenced to 60 days in county jail, got 2 years probation in order to pay $7,600 in court fees. His accomplice was listed as a co-defendant, but court records show no formal charges. Both of the teenagers were Pinckney High School students when the incident occurred.
Pinckney principal Dr. Jim Darga was able to provide some statistics on students caught with illegal possession. From the 2006-2007 to the 2013-2014 school year, there were 2 cases involving a student with heroin. Both occurred during the 2009-2010 school year. During that span, there were 11 cases involving students with prescription drugs. Dr. Darga said these figures were pulled from the database MyStar, where the category for drugs is pretty clearly defined. Howell High School has twice as many students as Pinckney. They were the only other public high school in the county able to provide a breakdown of students with illegal possession. Their records show from the 2009-2010 to the 2013-2014 school year, there was 1 case involving a student with heroin and 15 cases involving prescription drugs. Karen Bergbauer is a counselor with more than 20 years of experience dealing with the treatment and prevention of substance abuse. She works closely with the schools in Livingston, Washtenaw County. Bergbauer said a federal grant has allowed a Project Success counselor in each middle and high school in Livingston County and some in Washtenaw.
The Project Success counselor basically meets individually with students, meets with families, and runs groups to try to encourage skill building, decision making, problem solving among the students in hopes that they will gain the skills that are necessary to be able to manage life without turning to substances.
Lieutenant Smith said education about heroin, its addictiveness and potential danger is the best solution, but he doesn't think it'll end the problem.
We're not going to arrest our way out of the heroin epidemic. It needs to come from education.
Even that, he believes, will only slow down a drug he has seen get progressively worse.
It's cheap. It's easy to get. It's a drug that's, unfortunately, I think, here to stay as well.
Anyone struggling with addiction and looking for help in Washtenaw County can contact Health Services Access at 734-544-3050. In Livingston County, contact Community Mental Health at 517-546-4126.